Yo, this your boy Miguel Hampton, a.k.a. Gelly Gel.
This is Demond, a.k.a. Demond Does.
What's up, everybody? My name is Damon.
Tranere in the building.
Welcome to Common Conversations with the Odd Fellas.
Start it up.
No topic is off the table.
Superman don't go nowhere without his cape.
We came together to cry, laugh, agree, and to disagree. So let's go. Welcome. Hit that subscribe button. Run with us, because we about to be everywhere on the podcast. To the right of me is I got the man with the master plan. This is your boy, Demond Does.
Hey, this is Demond. Hello, this is Demond, a.k.a. Demond Does, a.k.a. Dang it, I had a bunch of them now. I can't remember it. That stinks. Anyway.
A-K-K-K-K. I mean, let that breathe.
Oh, there it is.
Shots fired.
He's starting early.
Let's go. Y'all know how we get down.
Yes, sir.
Load them cannons. Let's let it loose.
Your wife was my interview. Was my guest on my show that dropped this week.
Dope. Did she set it on fire?
Of course she did.
Good.
It was amazing.
Because she's the therapist with the mostest.
Yes, she was fantastic.
If you got brain issues, mental health issues, you need to talk. You need to walk it out. You need to figure it out. You need to unpack it. She is the perfect person to work with.
That she is. She is.
You dig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, during the pandemic, she went to went to teletherapy like a lot of therapists and social workers are. So that was really dope, and that's going to lead to some new shit. So some new things. That's dope. And I put some coins in there. So I got coins in a bucket. So I don't want to hear nothing about anybody talking about me cussing. And here's the thing. I put some rare coins in the bucket. So they worth more than what they were yesterday. So holla at your boy. I'm going to try to keep the cussing to a minimum today just because I might set something else on fire. Let's go. But yeah, man. So were you excited about the show?
Say again?
Were you excited about the show?
Yeah, it was. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
So you launched it?
Yeah, it dropped today.
It dropped today?
I always drop it. I always attempt to drop. I always drop it midnight on Wednesdays.
So midnight Wednesdays, Demond Does the 6 questions.
So, yeah. So last night.
There
when
it
it
is.
came out.
And with the wife, Tia Williams Hampton, licensed therapist. She's gonna yell at me later because I'm always screwing it up. Ella. I'm not even try. I can't even get it out of my mouth. You know how you can see something but can't say it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
LSCW, is that right?
LSW.
Okay.
There it is. See, I need somebody else to say it wrong so I can get it right.
That works. You're welcome.
There it is.
You're welcome.
Wow. See, that's the energy. That's how we play it off, right? So that's dope. So we're gonna drop the links for the Demond Does joint in here later on today. So if you're watching it on the Facebook, whatever, you catch it out. But if you're listening to the podcast, where do they go to hear it?
Basically anywhere you can get them. Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcast.
So just DEMOD.
DEMOND
does. All right.
So
not like Debbie does.
Definitely not like Debbie Does.
Okay, but Demond does.
Demond Does.
I never thought about that. That's gross.
All right, off to the right of that man, we got this dude that calls a shadow because the sun don't shine. What's up?
Nothing much, man. Nothing much. It's been a good week. It's been a good week. Yeah. Good. Getting ready to serve up some plates of food for thought.
What you feeding the people? Pandemic, that pandemic book ready?
Man, I'm working on that pandemic book. I got that 13-year at home.
We got a date? When's the release? I'm trying to hear it. When to go to print? What's up? Stop the bullshit. We've been 8 weeks in and we talking about pandemic food. Now we in summer.
Wow. Really?
I'm just fucking with you. Let's go.
Let's go. Wow, it's still good.
So when's the release? I want to know because all the fat people out there in the world, all the skinny people out there in the world, all the people who can't cook, some of the people who can't cook, they need a new cookbook.
Got a good point.
You know what I mean? There's some people in their house starving right now because they don't know how to cook.
They got all this extra food, don't know what to do with it.
And you said right because and extra toilet paper, so they need to use it.
Right.
So when we get the book,
I'm working on it. I'm still working on it. Still refining it and getting things locked in.
What's
the
deadline? What is the deadline? That's what he's asking.
I know what he's asking me.
Then give it to him. Quit being vague.
Wow.
Don't let them back you. Don't let them back you in a corner like that.
Thank you very much, man. Thank you for stepping up, man. Thank you for stepping up.
Grown folks talking.
You better not go out like that.
No.
Stay out of it, Superman.
I will have.
Okay.
When I am ready to have release, you all will be the first to know.
So when do we get the rough draft in?
There we go. That's a better.
That is a good question.
When's the rough draft coming? I mean, because even the calendar year ends.
You're absolutely correct.
How many recipes do you plan on having?
I hadn't really decided yet.
Okay.
All right, so here it is. We getting ready to get into phase 2 of COVID-19, and Damon's still gonna be working on the book. We know what's coming. I'm just saying. I'm going in today. Tranere, what up? Coming sitting straight across. You know this is my nemesis right here. They say it gets down right here. 2 guns blazing.
I'm a nemesis now.
Let's go.
Ooh, that's
today.
cool.
I mean, he got the paper plane hat on. Let's roll.
You dig?
And I can't breathe shirt. I mean,
you dig?
Yeah, let's get it.
You dig?
All right.
I can't breathe.
Yeah,
what's
the
happening,
word?
good people? You know, Tranere in the building. You know, Superman don't go nowhere without his cape. So we out here, great, go live and pop off, and hopefully y'all enjoy it.
That's it. What you been doing this week, man?
Man, working, you know, staying out the way, always trying to improve and get better.
All right.
So keeping my mind sharp, fresh, excited about my question.
Oh, see,
Look.
No, that's not what I was talking about. No, we were talking about last week. You had a picture of a book that your friend had referred you.
Yes.
And I think I saw on your Facebook
Yes.
that you bought it.
Yes.
Is that where you got the question from?
No.
So what was the book?
3,000 questions about me.
3,000.
I bought that last week at Target. Yeah.
All right.
So when I told y'all about it, I'd already bought it.
You didn't steal it from Target, right? You bought it.
Huh?
I mean, I just know motherfuckers out there protesting. I just make sure you weren't one of them looters.
Oh, no, fam.
Trader run out with 2 armloads of bugs.
Well, that threw me off when he said that, right? Like, what?
Everybody else was jacking TVs. He took a book.
Hey, well, at least I'm trying to get better.
He's like a looting nerd, just like, I steal that.
At least I was trying to improve myself.
I got you. Man.
You know,
Self-improvement.
You know.
I'm just saying. All right.
Yeah. Get the books and the towels.
What's the towels for?
Yeah. What you mean? You can never have not enough fresh towels.
That's The Bachelor.
That's a violation. If you ain't got enough fresh towels, that's a violation.
Violation.
Yeah. We gonna get this started, right? Every week we start with a question from Tranere.
Yep.
And his whole fabulous traineering.
Right. Right.
And let's go.
We only got one question this week, right?
That makes
me
nervous.
Everybody has to answer the question totally. Got me? So here's
I need to write it down.
Just here we go. Just follow me. It ain't nothing bad. It's real. So in the course of a work week, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, if you could spend the day with anybody living, who would those 5 people be? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Who would your 5 people be each day? You get to spend the day with this person.
5 people.
5 people, Monday through Friday.
And
Let's
go.
go.
Spend the day.
And they're alive.
And they have to be
who
alive.
Who you picking to start?
Huh?
They got to be alive?
Yes.
Oh, man, that sucks.
It doesn't suck.
For me, it does. Most of the people I
hear
admire
you. Like,
are dead.
I got people, you know what I mean? But
like, I can't go back in history and sit with Malcolm for a minute.
Start us off. We go around the room.
All right, I'm going first. And 5 people
and
who
in
the work with. I think it's wrong that y'all put me first, considering most of the people I admire is dead. However, there are some people out there that are exceptional, and I think that I can put them on the list. So
let me hold on before you start. Let me clarify a couple of things too. One, I thought of the question. I haven't thought of my answers yet. In fairness to you guys.
You know the guy who asked the question always says that shit, right? Like, hey, by the way, I'm gonna ask you something and I ain't thought about it.
But I'm a solid dude.
But I love you. So you know what I mean?
I'm a solid dude.
I got you.
I would tell you if, you know.
Let's go. So I'm gonna start out with my man Malcolm Gladwell. G is an author. Love his journal. I mean, G is a journalist. I've got every one of his books. I listen to his podcast. And honestly, if I had to really think about it, you know, he's actually pushed me based on some of the things and how he reports and how he tells a story. It's kind of inspired me to do some other things in terms of storytelling. My other people, because he's still alive, is I think his real name, is it Frank Lucas?
Not alive anymore.
Frank ain't alive no more?
Nope.
Damn, Bumpy Johnson dead too. All right, so we're gonna keep it with Malcolm, and then I'm gonna go with you know what? I wouldn't be opposed to sitting with Obama for a minute.
Okay. Okay.
I had to think about why.
Okay.
Outside of the fact that he was the first and only African-American president of the United States, you know, I mean, he's a suave dude.
Yeah.
I mean, other than that, you know, there's nothing not to love about him. So I guess sitting in a room and parlaying with him. I will tell you, I wouldn't mind sitting in a room with Warren Buffett for a day. That's my 3. And I got 2 more, right?
Yep, Thursday and Friday.
I got 2 more. Most Def.
Who?
The artist and hip hop artist,
okay.
Most Def.
Okay.
Man, Most Def, I think, is a G. Like, if you go back and listen to his music, you listen to his poetry. I know he just opened up a museum in Brooklyn that you have, you know what I mean? You can, like, he released his newest album, but you have to go to the museum and actually see it and hear it, which is dope. So I'd love to just to hear, sit in a room and talk to him about how he thinks, how he processes, what his motivation is, what inspires him. My last person, real talk. Man, Tia, I need you to be in the room on this one. I don't know. I really don't. I'm pushing, I'm pulling, and I'm tugging.
Well, push, pull, tug a little bit more.
Push, pull, tug. Who would I want to spend a full day with?
Yeah.
It's empty, cousin. But see, they gotta. Real talk. Most of the people I admire that I want to spend more time with are dead. You know what? Y'all come back to me. Who's next? Y'all go, and I'm gonna come back with the 5th.
I'll go. So Monday would be my dad. I don't know why, but fairly recently I was like, you know what? There's a lot that I don't know about him. So I asked him who his best friend was, and of course I have since forgot it. Sorry, Dad. I'm gonna have to ask him again and write it down. But there's a lot I don't know about him, and I would just spend the day asking questions because he grew up at a very interesting time. He's seen a lot of very interesting things throughout his lifetime. So that would be fun to talk to him about. And I get more straight and adult answers and what he's learned, and I don't know, that'd be cool.
All right.
My mother for the same reasons.
So that's 2, 1, and 2?
That's Tuesday, yes. Okay. For my mom for the same reasons that she's the one that has the entrepreneurial leanings. So right. She's the one that, like, my dad talked about it, but my mom did more of it.
Sure.
So that's where I get that tug from to, like, I really don't want to work here anymore. I got to figure out how to work for myself. I've always had that bug. So I get that from my mama. My 3rd one is my niece Jordan. She always says she always says I'm her favorite, and sometimes I wonder if she's right. She's super. She's awesome. She's an awesome kid. And they all live in Memphis, so I got to see her grow up, but it was just spotty because they're 6 hours away most of the time. So then her brother Colin, for the exact same reasons, they're adults now, and it's really cool to see the adults they become. My sister's done an amazing. Honestly, this village has done an amazing job.
Sure.
With those kids. They're amazing.
That's
They're amazing. So if I've forgotten to say it, at least it's recorded for posterity. So there you go. And then the last one for Friday, it has to be my sister. My sister can party. So if I'm going to not only am I going to spend the day with my sister and hang out and cut up and stuff, we are going to party like crazy because it's Friday.
You did?
Because TGIF.
I like it.
All right, look, I'm back.
Won?
I'm scratching some too. So
you scratching
I'm
some already?
So I had to think about it, man. You gave me some hard shit.
We
right?
did. Yeah, that was a really tough question, and we were not fair to him.
I'm telling you, I
got your back on this one.
Yeah, I sit with dead people. Shit.
This guy.
You know what I mean? So I'm gonna keep Malcolm. I'm gonna keep Obama.
Okay.
But I gotta go with Putin. Gotta sit down with Vladimir. That's a G. Gotta sit with him. I would love to spend a day with that dude and just really just be able to hear, listen, and soak in his genius.
That'd be interesting.
That would be really.
Hey, listen.
That's an interesting.
So I'm taking Warren Buffett off the list.
Okay. Hey, listen. Okay. When you pray for the rain, you got to be willing to deal with the mud.
Bruh.
As
my friends tell me, I'm both aggressive and the aggressor. Let's go, right?
Okay.
I mean, who better to learn to be a warrior from than a warrior?
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Let's let that breathe.
Yeah, let that breathe.
Okay.
Let's go.
Yeah, all right. So we're going to scratch Warren Buffett and we're going to go to battle.
He's got clip. Warren got clip for Putin.
As much as I want to keep Most Def, I'm going to take him off my list. And I'm going to put my Uncle Ray on there.
Okay.
PhD, philosopher, retired from Berkeley as a professor.
Wow.
From Panama, originally his home country, you know what I mean? and came to the United States. There's a lot of not, man. Sometimes my Uncle Ray, and I forget that he's on Facebook. Uncle Ray gotta be almost 80. But sorry if you ain't Unc. But that man spits so much knowledge in a paragraph that sometimes I have to look up the first eight words that he used.
Shout out to Nikki.
Just to understand what he was saying. Just brilliant. So yeah, you know what I mean? And so
right.
Uncle Ray comes to the list. All right, and so my fifth person, and I'm still kind of on the fence, but I met this young lady who is, again, PhD in engineering, electrical engineering, if I'm correct. So Angelique, if I said that wrong, I apologize.
It's your sister's name.
Angelique Johnson, who created her own startup called MemStem, and she does some stuff in biotech, hearing aids, and that's awesome. When I get an opportunity to sit in a room with her, and even if it's for an hour and a half, like I can see her brain working through her eyes.
Right.
That shit is brilliant. And so if I could spend a day just watching and listening to how she works,
right,
and what allows her brain to see the things that she sees, that allows her to invent the things that she's invented, and to build this company. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that right there.
Okay.
So yeah. So you got a little young, little old. Yeah. Those would be my five. I'm putting that down.
Okay.
And the wife is coming with me.
Damon?
For me, Barack Obama. I think it just will be an awesome time to just sit and talk with him about his journey, about how he navigated those waters. Gordon Ramsay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
That's a good one.
I know a little bit about his story, and the little bit I know is so intriguing to me, and how he struggled when he first started being a chef, and to come up the way he has come up, and just to amass what he has. Wynton Marsalis, I would love to just sit and talk music with him.
Wow.
For Thursday, my sons, just to spend the day with them. Both of them, all three of us together, just enjoying the day, sitting back, chilling, having a nice time. And then for Friday, it'll be my father.
Okay. Wow.
All right, let's go.
I like it. All
right, Tranere.
You dig.
Yes, sir.
Your question, your live.
Hold up. Before you answer anything, I want to say something that I noticed. You had this hard-ass question, this very difficult question, and then you ended up going last?
On Monday, off the top, man, I got to go with John C. Maxwell. Off the top.
Okay.
I'm always looking to get better, improve, and so I think he is a guru in that area, in the area of leadership and development, and so I would want to sit down with him and spend the day with him. On Tuesday, I got to go with my man Tyler Perry. That's my dude. I love Tyler Perry. I like what he stands for. I like the energy he breathes into people. That's something that I would want to be around. You dig?
All right.
On Wednesday, I got to go with my man, Dr. Eric Thomas, the motivational speaker. Man, that dude, man, I listen to him every single morning. To be fair, his podcast, like I was a little late to the party on it for some reason. So I'm several episodes behind. So every day I'm listening to an episode.
All right.
And so, but yeah, I like everything about Eric Thomas, and that's my guy. And on Thursday, I had to do a switch up on this.
Whatever.
But no, because I was gonna go with my favorite quarterback ever.
I'm just saying, you pre-process. This guy throwing out the lottery tickets. But
everybody knows who my favorite quarterback ever was. If you don't know, it's Randall Cunningham. But I had a quick alternative, quick on the fly, and that person would be Robert Smith, the guy that gave the Morehouse students paid their tuition, they balances.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would want to spend the day with him to just see how he move and think and operate and what his day looks like. I think that'd be intriguing.
Those are interesting.
And then, of course, the final person has to be Jay-Z.
Most def.
Has to be.
I'm gonna go with you on that. Day.
Yeah. I'm gonna see if I can bring a friend.
Nah, you not gonna see. You just gonna tell that motherfucker you bringing a friend.
Like a couple of them.
But
You be
absolutely,
like, I got friends. You know what I mean?
Absolutely,
Let's
I
go.
would have to spend the day with Hov and just.
I ain't asking.
Just watch how he think, man. I just think how he move, how he shake and bake, and we probably do a little partying at the end of the night.
That's crazy.
I don't know,
Oh,
Jay.
You Trey,
I
you
think Jay.
crazy.
What do we title this show, y'all? We titled this show
You dare to struggle, you dare to win.
"You Dare to Struggle, You Dare to Win." And so I think your question. So I want everybody to know, if you listen to the podcast, we do not think of these things prior to coming into the room to record this, and maybe one day we will. But we're literally recording and coming together and having a conversation, which is completely random. And the only thing that's not random is us plugging up this equipment and then sitting down in front of a microphone. But the rest of it is random. We don't know what Tranere is going to ask us. We typically don't know what the title of the show is going to be.
Even though we are supposed to meet on Mondays and figure out a title.
Absolutely. So
Just air all our dirty
I'm
laundry.
just saying.
Put it out there.
All of it. Just all of it.
Authenticity.
How you just jumped on me this week, too. Just attacked me.
So if you're out there,
Because I got ADHD. What's wrong with y'all?
So the
Just
point of
me.
this is that if you're out there and you're building something and you're thinking that you always got to have everything in front of you, realize that you already have it. And so sometimes walking into the room is the first step.
Ooh, that's a
showing
nugget.
up is the second
Ain't that
step,
though?
and then getting it done. Just
that
doing
breathe.
whatever it is that you are planning to do is the next step. So, this joint is all about what. So I'm gonna tell y'all where I got to. So when we came into the room today, we were like, "Oh, what's the title?" And everybody was throwing around something. And I'm sorry, I just do me sometimes, and I just was like, my favorite person, one of my favorite people, of course, is Fred Hampton. And he said, if you dare to struggle, then you dare to win. But and then the wife and I also always have these conversations about the fact that people who often persevere are often challenged throughout their entire lives, right?
Yes.
And so, with that, with struggle comes great reward in some cases.
Yes.
But again, that's why I like Malcolm Gladwell in that relationship, because he tells those really good stories. And I'll tie this in because of what's been happening. And I want to have this conversation with y'all. What's been happening in the country? What's been happening in our own backyard? What's been happening in Louisville as it relates to the death of Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, David McAtee, Xavier Williams, they call him Milky in Jeffersonville, at the hands of police. And so, I've been out in some of the protests and hanging out with a lot of young folks, and I gotta tell you, I'm inspired by them. I'm inspired by their resilience to show up every day, to demand something that we as a people, African Americans, Black, brown people, have been demanding since the concept or the birth of this nation, and that's equality and that's justice. And then at the same time, I'm watching them do a thing that I think many of them don't know how to do, but they're doing it. And they're showing up every day and they're getting better at it. And so where at one point it was just loud noise, now you're seeing demands. And I find it even more amazing because now there are people working behind the scenes to help or potentially execute potential new policies. And I think that's the only way we in a sense eradicate racism. But here's the point. So I was on Facebook the other day, and then I want y'all to give me your thoughts, because I want to know how y'all dealing with it, what y'all facing. So I was on Facebook the other day, and people are yammering. They're like, yam, yam, yam. They're going back and forth. Black lives matter. No, all lives matter. Fuck the police. No, police are the greatest thing in the world. Fuck you. You know what I mean? You got local businesses in Jeffersonville like Adrian, who's parked, in the middle of a protest, crying, talking about there's looters and there's no looters to be around, and she's crying because she's afraid people are going to steal her cupcakes. I went on one of these guys' posts, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to say anything today. Tia said, get off Facebook. So I was like, I'm not going to say anything. But then I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going on Facebook. Let me go ahead and say something. So they were talking about the protesters, and they were saying, hey, we don't understand why they had to protest. We don't understand, we don't understand, right? We don't really care. America is America. America's great. America is justice. The police are always right. We believe in everything that they say. And if you've ever been arrested for something, then, well, you deserve it, so to speak, right? This is the shit that they was kind of spewing out. And so I wrote this thing. So I was listening, and I told one of the guy who was yammering out his mouth, because one of the last things he said was, if you want the protests to stop, take all their unemployment checks. And so I think that one got me. And so I said, so I wrote him, and I said, you seem somewhat intelligent. So let me share with you just a few bits. This is what I told him. So I said, the protest is just the beginning. There are times in our life when we only open our eyes to hear the screams of motherless childs and the tears and the last whisper of our fallen. And for George Floyd, that was mommy, right? And his mother was already had passed away. As I think about the state of the country, and I can't help but to see the ongoing trend that is the assassination of black and brown people by the United States government. And so before I say what else I said, I realized that in some of my conversations this week, even with black people, we don't even know our own history. And I'm saying we as an American history, because so much of it has been blotted out, or it's not part of the common conversation. And so when people are talking about this is new, the murdering of civilians by a militarized police department, this is new. This didn't happen. And so I had to show him the trend. And I didn't go that far back. I only went back as the early 1900s. And so I did a really quick comparison. So in 1919 to 1923, of course, prominent African-American communities were burned to the ground by white citizens because of through white supremacy and white silence. So all of that happened, right? So like when we talk about Rosewood, when we talk about, there are eastern parts of Kentucky, when we talk about Oklahoma, when we talk about Philadelphia, and I'll get into all of that, all these communities were savagely burned to the ground. Black people were murdered by white folks, and these were thriving communities, right? So between 1955 and 1969, prominent African-American leaders were assassinated. So when they talk about where are your black leaders? Well, literally, our black leaders are assassinated. And what I love about when people say, well, where are your leaders? I think the most unique thing about when they ask that question, because they always refer to Martin Luther King. And what I found interesting is that Martin Luther King was assassinated 2 days after he gave his best speech. And see, we don't talk about that. Here's a man who led, who was part of leading the civil rights movement. And he did it through nonviolence. Although they got their asses whipped, they got shot. There were a ton of people who were killed and murdered, yada, yada, yada. But this leader who everybody loves was assassinated, potentially, and a rumor has always been, by the U.S. government in 1968, right? Along with a bunch of other people. So again, looking at this cycle and this trend, right? Took a quick look, the cycle of violence that happens in America by police. So again, one of my favorites, of course, Fred Hampton. And I relate this what I find really interesting. So in 1929, on December 4th, in Cook County, Illinois, Fred Hampton was assassinated by who? Police, right? Breonna Taylor, March 13, 2020, same, right? Sleep, in her bed, no knock warrant, assassinated. Difference is, Fred Taylor was what? He was a spokesperson for his community. He talked about what? Economic equality, right? Here we go. Eric Garner, assassinated in 2014. Chokehold for doing what? Selling a cigarette. Right? So they put him in a chokehold. They killed him on a corner street. Choked him to death, right? George Floyd, May 25th, 2020, Minneapolis. What happens? For 8 minutes, 46 seconds, cop knees him in the back. Damon can give us. Damon, you and I had this. You shared with me as an EMT, and it's screeching, but the physical, what happens physically when that goes on, and if you want to tap into that, you can. It's a little screeching, but again, aligning the trend, right? Because there are a lot of people. There's a lot more folks who have been killed by the police department, and I'm gonna continue to use the word assassinated for liminal things. So let's go back to Tulsa, to the Tulsa race riots in 1921, right? Where the United States deploys bombs, right? So we talk about this all the time. We're like, the United States have never done these things, right? They've never hurt black people, the country, right?
Shit.
We always talk about individuals. Right, there we go. So Tulsa race massacre in 1921, the U.S. deploys bombs and destroys an entire African-American community and kills hundreds and thousands of both women and children and men, right? In the African-American community, leaves them homeless, jobless. I mean, they destroyed it in the toilet. So here's the funny part, right? They talk about, that was the one time. 1985, Philadelphia, police do it again with C4, right? They blow up an entire it was a black liberation movement called Move, and so they killed almost, they left 250 people homeless. They killed them up. So the point I'm getting at, right, is this isn't new. And it is a trend. At least I see the trend, and I hope that we as a people begin to see the trend. But much of this is allowed to happen because of public policy, because of the laws that our city council and our county councils and our county commissioners and our state representatives and our Congress and our presidents write.
All right.
Right. And so, we got these kids out here marching in the street saying we want justice. And I want to believe for the first time in our history that things might change. And so I wanted us to kind of discuss that. One, how's it affecting you? Because I'm out here, y'all know, mask the fuck up. Like, let's go.
Right.
But everybody has a role, right? And so it's on the table. Don't let the crickets hit us.
Okay. So
I know it was a lot.
Yeah. How's it affected me?
Yeah, real talk.
If I'm being, straight up, I'm struggling with it. I don't know if it's, because we got that visual of George Floyd. I don't know if it's because, Breonna is right across the bridge in Louisville. Like, I don't know if it's because I, have spent, time in Georgia, and I love that the Atlanta portion of it, the Augusta portion of it, and I haven't really been to the other cities of it, but I feel like I'm connected is what I'm trying to say. And so I'm struggling with it, man. I literally had a day, where I literally had that on my mind versus the work I was supposed to be doing. Like I just don't understand how we are here again. I just can't fathom it. We are here, and, prayer is for justice. My prayer is for those families affected to get some form of peace, some form of comfort, something that, puts enough passion and courage inside of them that they continue this fight on until it's done.
What does done look like to you?
Where it doesn't happen again. Like, this is it. Like, we never see this portion of law enforcement, quote unquote, again.
Got you.
You talked about perseverance, and when you mentioned the word perseverance, I just quickly looked up the word. And perseverance is defined as continued effort to do or achieve something despite difficulties, failure, or opposition. The action of, or condition or an instance of persevering, to be steadfast. As you were going and just giving them brief history, earlier this week I began to look up, Black people in America. And it was interesting to me to find out that people of African descent have been on this continent since the 1400s. And in one of the databases I was looking up, they say that people of African descent have been here longer than the English colonies have. That before the English colonies ever came here, Black people were fighting off oppression on this very land. I think one of the more polarizing things that I've ever been a part of is when I went to Philadelphia and I got an opportunity to go see the We the People exhibit. And one of the things that she says, as the lady was just one lady on a stage talking through the Constitution and Declaration of Independence and We the People, is that when they wrote the Declaration of Independence and when they wrote the Constitution of the United States of America, they felt that slavery was too big an issue to address. So when we talk about we the people, we were never the people. We were never considered to even be people at the time that that statement was made. And one of the things I was watching was when George Floyd's attorney, and they were talking about additional charges for the other three officers, he began to quote a line from the Declaration of Independence about how we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. And I think as I watched George Floyd die, I was struggling with it because, I've seen all the other things that happened before him, and they didn't have the impact on me that he did. But I'm also in a different place with a different mindset, with a different understanding. So as the conversation that we had, I literally watched them kill him, and I knew how they did it from a physiological standpoint, that in the position that they had him on, his body is pressed against the ground, and his knees, the officer's knees are in his back, thus preventing his diaphragm from expanding. So that with each time he attempted to even take in a breath, he was getting weaker. His body was getting weaker and weaker. With the officer's knee on his neck, compressing his carotid artery, and the other side of his neck on the ground, so that both of his carotid arteries are beginning to be compressed. His brain is losing oxygen. So he is, as he slowly begins to fade away, there comes a point where he's no longer fighting them, and he's not even saying anything to them. He's not even able to resist.
So I'm curious.
Okay.
And it's I got a question for Tranere too. So which out of all the things that happened, now I've watched almost all the videos, if there was a video. What is it about this particular time is the one what made it affect you? This particular, George Floyd's particular issue. Why was this the one?
I think it's because of the conversation we had yesterday with Tranere's initial question. And I talked about my apathy. I historically have been very apathetic to these type of events, willing to ascribe to the idea that, if we as a people would just do better, if we as a people would stop giving the police a reason to harass us or arrest us, that they would magically stop if we would stop with black on black crime. But this time I'm in a different place personally. So when I saw it, it had a totally different impact upon me. As I begin to consider and really look at black people in this country, there is a mindset that is trickled down all throughout time from the inception of this country. And that's, we have never been we weren't initially considered to be people. So we were considered to be property. We were considered to be beasts of burden. We were considered to be a lot of different things, but we were never really considered to be people. So when that mindset is passed down, so therefore I can look at you and not even see you as a person. So therefore things that I do to you that I would not do to a person become very easy for me to do because I don't even consider you to be a person.
I got you. And
I think it is when you see it in white supremacy, and even when you talk about the events that you timelined, we were not considered to be people. So we're constantly fighting for justice and the things that are inherited, supposed to be inherent to us by the documents of this country. They say these things are inherent, self-evident, that all men are created equal. Okay, that's an ideology, and we never thought we weren't created equal. But it's the problem we're having is you never saw us as equal. You would even think that we are created to be equal, but you have a certain amount of power. And every time it looks like we might be able to reach a level that you're on, something happens to thoroughly annihilate the attempt. One of the things that I've been really starting to look in and really starting to get try to get a better understanding of is Black Wall Street and what happened there. And the fact that they are not a thriving community of black people and businesses and things where they're independent in the sense that they're not dependent on, quote unquote, the white man for these things. They're able to be self-sustaining. And they're not only able to be self-sustaining, more and more people are becoming self-sustaining. And then because of an accusation, is utterly annihilated, wiped out completely off the face of the earth by the government. I don't know that anything of that magnitude in that particular way has ever been created since. Not that there isn't black people who are wealthy. Not that there aren't black people who are entrepreneurs. Not that there aren't black people who've had financial success and business success. But when you think of the dynamic of Black Wall Street and what it was, I have not seen that.
What you about to, big guy?
Wow. Could you ask that question again?
Just, I mean, with all that's going on, how's it affecting you? Where's your position at? What are your thoughts? Just where you at?
It's a lot. There are stretches where I wake up angry almost every morning, like really angry, and it's maddening. But I got the little people, so they help, and I've spent a lot of time with them, and just hugging on them, loving on them as much as I can because pretty soon Georgia's probably not too far away and Joel won't be far behind. And I'm gonna have to, toughen them up.
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to doing that. I shouldn't have to. My kids should be able to grow up just like every other kid. And, honestly, kind of the way I grew up, to be honest. They're going to, because I don't remember having that talk. Like the one that shook me, the one that shook me the most was Rodney King. I've told my wife this story because I use it to make her laugh. But because I remember, I'm like, wait, what could he possibly have done to have 7 dudes kick his ass like that? And 2, there's 7 of them.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
True story.
And I
Real
said
talk.
that in my physics class, and the guy next to me, this big corn-fed guy, I'm like half his size. I'm picture me with 40 pounds less on me. I think he was an offensive lineman on the football team or whatever. And he says, well, he shouldn't resist it or something like that. And I'm like, he's like, being a cop is dangerous, that kind of rhetoric. And I looked at him, and I'm not big now, but I'm 40 pounds smaller then. And I looked at him dead in his eyes, said, if there were 7 of me right here, right now, we would beat your ass barehanded. They're trained. They had weapons.
How do we avoid this in the future? Like, so I think about it all the time. So, somebody posed the question,
You forget my kids are watching this.
Hey, that's all right. Let them watch. It's a good time for them to understand it, right? To have a conversation, because that's something else that's coming out there. It's like, how do you talk to your kids about this? This is real. It ain't going. And the thing is, I think mostly is it's not going away anytime soon. They just arrested a little kid in New York for selling candy on the subway.
What?
You know what I mean? Like, this is happening all over the country. Like, I think some of us only watch what's happening in our backyard. But if you look what's happening across the country as a whole, right? I think they tear gassed a kid at one of the protests. Right? So our kids are, it used to be, I guess at some point in time, and I don't think it's ever been. I think black kids have always been, a target. And I think sometimes it's more so today than it was yesterday. And how do we protect our children? Right? How do we protect ourselves? And somebody asked the question the other day, is like, if you were standing out there and you saw Floyd and the situation with the cops, what would you stop it? And I don't know that I would or could. I'd like to think I would. I'd like to think I would take that position, but I also know I'm taking a position where I'm probably going to lose my life for a stranger.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I had to honestly process that. Now, if it was one of the homies, if it was my brother, if it was my wife and my daughter, I can say pretty quick, 99% of the time, I'm going to act real fast.
Right.
But I think about that. Like, we were marching today in Jeffersonville, and Jeffersonville is a small town. It's pretty safe. I mean, the first time we marched, of course, the state police showed up in riot gear for a bunch of kids. I thought, how ludicrous that you would show up to meet your citizens in the middle of a street in full tactical gear. So I ask, how do we change this? And I know it's through policy, and everybody's going to play a role. And I've gotten a lot of calls of people saying, hey, what do we do next? What do we do next? But I'm just curious, you know what I mean? How do we protect our children? How do we protect ourselves? And do you think you would honestly step in the way or not? Like, I'm curious.
Ooh.
I'll be honest, no. And I'm not. I mean, that's just what I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
It's a stranger, and I'm not sure. I'm not gonna pretend I'm not. I'm gonna pretend I'm sure what I would do because I know if I go to save him, and I don't know. Like if again, like he said, if it's somebody that I know and love, we're going down in a hail of gunfire. It's just what it is.
Right.
But for a stranger, when I got babies at home,
Right.
I no.
Right.
No, and I'm not ashamed to say that.
Right. So one of the things that I've always thought about these types of questions that you just asked is that it's easy to say what you would do and wouldn't do when you're not in the situation.
Right.
Right.
Real talk.
But then when you get in the situation, right, you never know what might move you. You might be thinking of your kids, right? You might be thinking of your neighbor, your brother, your friends, community as a whole, the country as a whole. You might be thinking of them and tackle the cop, right?
Right.
Because it's about progress,
True.
right?
True.
And though you might not live to see that progress, you stood for something, right? So you don't know, but it could be exactly what you described. No, I got kids it might be that, and nobody's going to be mad at you for that, right? But what would I do in this situation? I really don't know.
Yeah.
Because you might get in that situation and something just move you into action. Like your logical, reasonable self will sit this one out on the sideline and be like, I'm not going to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, real talk.
I don't want to die today, right?
Right.
But something might move you into action. Next thing you know, you in there battling the lawman, John Law, and probably die.
You just said something that just sparked a thought in me. The fact that we have to rationalize, I don't want to die today. That before we do anything else, we're looking at the situation. We may not know all the parts and pieces of the situation, but the one of the first things that's going to cross our minds is that I don't want to die today.
Right.
That we're predisposed to rationalize the situation or seek for some rational perspective before we step into action. And you're right. I don't know that I would or would not jump in.
Right.
Now, if it was one of you all, my sons, my wife, the girls, without, I think I would act without even thought.
Right.
Simply because, and back to my point, I am now medically trained. So there's one thing we're taught as EMTs is mechanism of action and scene size up. That you're assessing the scene as you're approaching it, so you can map out and decide how you're going to respond. And based upon what you see, you can, through mechanism of action, have a baseline understanding of how you're going to treat the patient when you get there. That's ingrained in me.
All right.
So I'm constantly in a mode of assessing, constantly in a mode of when I see situations unfolding, what's going on. And I think that for me, as I look at George Floyd, was I couldn't turn that off.
Got you.
I could not turn the EMT in me, the nursing school in me, all the medical knowledge I know, everything that's taught, that I've been taught, and how to save life. I couldn't turn it off as I watched this man's life be taken from him.
All right.
And it was like an execution, medieval style. The one cop, his additional cronies, and he's bound and being executed.
So how do we avoid being killed in the future?
I think what's happening right now is part of that process. Tranere said a few minutes ago, "Here we go again." And the first thing that crossed my mind when he said it was this: "What do you mean, here we go again? It hasn't stopped. It's changed forms."
True story.
But it's the same thing. And now, even more so now, with the advent of technology, not only can we watch you as you're doing it, but now the social response is much greater.
All right.
It did my heart good. I was watching the Daily Show with Trevor Noah, and in his broadcast, he showed the other countries in the world who are standing with us in solidarity. That it happens to you, it happens to us.
Right.
To see not just black people, and it's not that white people haven't always been there. They've been there. They've played a part in the movement, in the progression. And I don't believe all cops are bad.
Right.
I don't believe all white people are bad.
Right.
I don't believe that all cops are seeking to oppress and to not show us justice as black people. And I don't have those absolute extreme ideas.
Right. Right.
But does it exist? Does it exist by policy and procedure? Are police protected by the system?
So
or when they do those things?
I'm gonna argue with you real quick because I am that person, right? So you tell me that I'm not gonna say all cops are bad. However, if the system that they operate and govern by is flawed and is systematically racist, how is that role not bad in itself? Right? If the mayor and the city council can negotiate a contract with the police union that protects them when they commit police brutality and discrimination, and they may end or kill, grope, destroy, defame, discredit, falsely accuse people of color, how are they not bad? I'm not saying the individual, but the idea and the construct in itself.
I agree with you. I absolutely agree with everything you just said. My perspective
I got you.
was more based on not every individual cop will take advantage, will seek to destroy,
We'll do the most.
will operate in what everything you just said. And I say that once again, and going back to my experiences, I'm a 6'5" black man currently rocking 400 pounds plus. I get eyeballed just about everywhere I go. But my experience with police, my experience in situations where I've been pulled over, it's been night, and there's this cop walking up to my car, black and or white. I've not had those experiences. So I can, based upon my experience, not speaking to the system, yes, the system is flawed. Yes, there is systemic racism.
So-
I don't disagree with that. But my individual experience
I got you.
with individual police officers, I've not experienced those things. And I think that led to me personally being apathetic. But I'm no longer apathetic. I'm no longer willing to so casually turn a blind eye out of convenience, comfortability.
So what are you willing to do now?
I'm figuring that out.
Okay.
Right. Currently, I'm writing.
You in the same role?
I don't think all cops are bad. In fact, my family and I, we've had an awesome experience with one, if I'm being straight up. He was white. He was outstanding. But I think it was during a tough time, but I think his heart was different. And so to your question, how do we make it better, or how do we I don't know that answer, because I don't know if you can, I don't know what kind of tools or, test or research or evals or any of that. I don't know what can be done to check a man's heart.
Not let him be a cop.
And not let him be a cop. I don't know what kind of tools that we can.
So how do we change the contracts and the system and the policy that allows them to police in such a matter? No, fuck that. They're not even policing. They're militarizing. They're engaging in war.
Right, but you got to check some of these people's heart.
How you gonna check a heart when the system allows them to do it?
That's what I'm getting at. How do you know that cat is evil deep down inside?
You don't till he kills you.
Exactly.
But we got a trend.
But you asked me,
but we got a trend.
And so I'm saying I don't know how, because
you
can't. I don't know what you can do to check a man's heart.
Here's the problem. Every man is a hero in his own story. You know what I mean? So even checking his heart, because I have quite a few white friends, and I recently found out some of them are wildly racist, and I'm just like, that's probably been the hardest thing for me to wrap my head around. I'm like, it's so unnecessary.
Right.
You are justifying this being okay. This could happen to me or my son, you motherfucker.
Oh.
Real talk.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, I've been on the other side of it.
You know what I mean? Like, it just, and the hardest thing, I don't know if I processed everything else, but it is hurt so bad. It feels like a betrayal, or it's one of those, how did I not notice this sooner? The signs were all there kind of thing. You know what I mean? Just like, I'm still processing some of this. I'm just like,
right.
It's so unnecessary.
But if something's rooted in somebody's heart, though, it might slip past you.
Y'all seen this movie 12 Years a Slave?
Yes.
All right. And as we're having this conversation,
I have not, by the way.
I haven't seen it yet either.
All right. So I'm the radical one at the table.
You are.
We know this.
Yes. The wild card.
During the movie, there was a particular time that the main slave character, I can't remember his name, and it just came to mind. His master,
Etcheford.
Okay. His master came out and told him, stand here until I come back.
Yep.
Homie stood there for almost an entire day before his master returned. As we're having this conversation about good cop, bad cop, and checking people's hearts, that's what I feel like we're doing right now. Like, we're having, this is a really soft conversation. This is a hard conversation to have, period.
Yeah, 100%.
But this is a really respectful conversation to a bunch of motherfuckers that just killed a whole lot of people during the pandemic. I got friends that are cops.
Right.
And I'll sit here in the room and I'll tell it to them.
Right.
Right? If you allow your partner to kill a black person or to say racist shit or to do racist policing, then you just as fucked up as they are.
You were complicit.
Right.
I agree
Right?
with that.
And to continue to allow that, if I have to be I ain't afraid much, but if I have to walk out my home and see you as potential danger because I don't know and I know that you're protected by the law, that's some wicked shit, man.
Right.
That is slavery.
Right.
That is oppression in its core.
Right.
I don't feel like we should have to decipher a man's heart when his job says. That's a job, homie.
Right, I'm with you, but
Right? If you a killer, you a killer, whether you got that badge or not. Let's not give them badges.
that's the.
But how? I mean, I'm just
I'm
saying.
with you. Like, I agree.
I think he's trying to figure out, okay, so let's not give him badges, but how do we make that determination?
Exactly.
I don't know. I mean, so here's the other question: how do we vote mayors in who will pass policies that are economically racist and or disparaging the black people or the black and brown people in the community? That's the same thing. We still killing a group of people. We're just doing it in a different math or a different way.
Right.
You're absolutely correct.
So
Right.
so this, I didn't explain how this shit is affecting me.
Right. Yeah, right. We see.
So let's have that.
You know what I mean?
How is it affecting you?
Oh, I'm fucking angry as hell. Like I'm at the point where I want to hit the F5 button on America. Like I'm really there. Like I feel like we need to reset this shit. The Constitution was never written for us.
Never.
The police was never created for people of color,
Nope.
or the indigenous folks of this country. I think we have black people who are elected in office who sit on their ass and had the opportunity to change a lot of the policies that are discriminatory, right? And haven't done it. I feel like there's a shitload of white people right now, and I love my white friends, but a lot of the motherfuckers is on the bandwagon for the first time. And I appreciate it. But I want to move beyond conversation. Tranere said, here we go again. This shit is, it's been a constant. This has been a continuation. It is a trend. It is a habit. It is a nature of this country and of many of the people in it. The Klan didn't go away. They put on badges and they got elected in office. They put on suits and ties. They changed policy. They dictated who had power and who was able to have wealth, who was able to have riches, who was able to have land. These kids are out there protesting, to be honest, because the four of us couldn't figure it the fuck out.
Real.
Right? Apathy. Because this is a live conversation and I'm gonna be me and I love you. How the fuck? And this is for a lot of black people and a lot of black women, a lot of black men. Matter of fact, Tia just said we should have some black women on here. We're gonna do this. How is it that black people have apathy in this race thing as if it doesn't? And this is rhetorical. So if you're listening and you have friends and you feel that way, for me it's a question because there's a lot of people out here who've been fighting and dying just so that we can have equality. Just so that we could make an honest living, so we could own a home, so we weren't being, people weren't out there taken.
Here, let me address that. As you're talking, it's a thought that really comes to my mind because I'm sitting here thinking about my life as you're making this statement and ask this question. How do you have apathy? We're taught that the civil rights movement and the progression of black people and Martin Luther King's Jr.'s and Malcolm X's, their sacrifices and their death was so that we could have freedom, the freedoms in this country. And my traditional historical stances was that, and I would make this statement, they died so you could have the freedom, and what have you done with it? So my thought growing up was, if I go to school, if I get good grades, if I'm not caught in the crime, I'm not on drugs, and I get a good job, and I make something of myself according to the dictates of society, I have taken the freedom that others have died for me, and I've done something with it. Now, the reality of all that other stuff that's going on right now, at a certain point, oblivious to it because it doesn't impact my world directly. It's something I see and I'm able to distance myself from it because I'm not on drugs. I'm not a criminal. I'm not this. I'm not that. And I grew up in California in the height of the gang wars in the 80s. I'm not a gangbanger. I'm not this. I'm not that. I'm not what society says negative black people are. Right. And I'm not Cliff Hustable either, but that's the direction I'm trying to head. And I want to be like that.
So you see it in a sense. I'm just asking that you're not white society stereotype of the African American or black man.
Exactly. I'm not the stereotypical. Okay. I'm not what they say the stereotypical black man is. But what is it to be black in America?
Are you asking me that?
This is something as what is it to be a black man in America? growing up in a fatherless home with my mother who could never tell me what it was to be a man, period, and seeing a variety of different men around me, how do I, and my mother's perspective was this. She used to say, you're going to speak the king's English as long as you're in my house. So my mother taught us to speak properly. And this is when they were doing Ebonics, and they were beginning to teach Ebonics in school in LA County. I was in California when they started that. And my mother was like, you will never talk like that.
I got you.
So and it wasn't to kowtow to anybody. It was just so that I could be in the best possible position to interact with the world that she was about to send her black children into. Because my mother grew up in the 50s. So she understands certain things. But I didn't grow up with my mother's fears, because I'm now a product. I'm a product of post civil rights. So there's certain things that my mother dealt with that I didn't have to deal with. So I don't carry her perspective per se, because she's raising us to be productive in this world, not necessarily to be quote unquote white, which I was accused of as a child because I dared to speak properly and dared to be educated and took education serious. So I grew up with the idea of being black was to be considered black by black people. I had to be semi-uneducated, not care about education, talk like I didn't have any sense, walk around with a militant attitude and angry all the damn time. And these are the things that, in order to be black, this is what I needed to be. And
Okay.
So I'm trying to figure out where I fit in the world, because not fully accepted by my white friends because I'm black, but not fully accepted by my black friends because they think I'm too white. Now that I'm a man, the question still sits in my head. What is it really to be black in America? I have a better understanding of my history, the history of my people. I have a better understanding of how I feel. I'm in a different position to see things that I didn't see when I was 10, 11, 12, 14.
Respect.
I know things that they didn't teach me in school, nor things that my mother thought to engage me in conversations in either. So for me, it was easy to be apathetic,
Okay.
because I'm looking at my own people saying, I don't want to be like that.
So you seeing your own people through the eyes of, I got you. So yeah, I got you. I'm with you. I'm curious. So Tranere, jump. What's it for you? What's it like to be black in America? Thank you. That's dope. But
Wow.
yeah, I'm with you.
Wow.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough question, because for me, I never, in my mind, in my thought process, black is black. You know, if you black, you black. I never saw it any other way. So I understand what he's saying, as far as speaking proper and, you know, whoop-de-whoop-de-woo. But if you got black parents, you're black.
Right.
If you got one
Right.
parent that's black, you're black. You know, if you have, all, and I don't know all the ethnicities, y'all know what it is, but you're black.
Gotcha.
I never saw it any other way, and so that's my perspective. I never, in my mind, I never thought about, well, what's it mean to be black in America? I never thought about those things coming up because you black. I just kept it like that. And listen, I'm not this guy I'm simple, right? I'm a simple guy. I like simple things. I don't try to make anything complicated. That's not the world I live in, right? And so you're black.
I got you. I got you. Experiences define things for us. We realize that.
And let me add one more thing to that.
That's real.
No, because you actually brought up a good point. I grew up in California as typically one of the only black people in a room full of white people. So I learned how, and my mother's emphasis, how to speak, interact, not to hide who I am, but how to operate in this environment. And growing up, it was interesting because I was never really comfortable being in large crowds of black people. Didn't have any athleticism, even though I was the tallest black person in all of my school.
Right.
But I'm not an athlete. So, when the coaches was like, oh, we need to get him on the team, we get him on the team, and they get me on the team and they see I don't got no skills, all of a sudden,
You gotta relax.
Yeah, you gotta relax.
real talk.
You gotta relax.
Real talk. Because I'm one of the few black people in a predominantly
That's
white
real.
school system and environment.
Right.
Get that brother off the team immediately.
Real talk.
That's real.
Like, who just did this
Fit the
mess?
mold.
That's real.
So, and I did have an aptitude for music.
Yes.
Even in music, I did not start getting really into the music, black music, until I was an adult. Because my mother was into the arts. So I listened to classical music, Beethoven, Bach, Chopin. Those were the people I listened to in music. I was in bands, symphonic orchestra, where we played that type of music. So I didn't really get into rap from the 80s until I was an adult.
Right.
Well beyond the 80s.
Got you.
Because one, my mother's been saved and in church all her life, so therefore it was all my life too.
Right.
We wasn't playing that kind of music in the house.
That's right.
I didn't have them kind of friends. Real talk. I just didn't.
Right.
So my exposure to it is, Friday night videos back in the day. And it's limited. So once I leave my mother's house and I'm an adult and I start making my own way in the world, then I get exposure to a whole section of my own culture that I've been systematically taught to view negatively, directly and indirectly
By other black people.
by other black people.
All right, we're gonna roll. Hold on, cause Damon, I need you to tap in here, bro. I mean, blackness for you, black in America. What does it mean to be black? I'm just curious. Y'all got me. I'm just asking questions. I'm you know what I mean? I know what I feel. I know my thoughts, my opinions, and I think that's the love about being at a table with four brothers that come from different areas with different experiences and having this conversation because we're not monolithic, and this is showing it.
Right.
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 'Cause
Absolutely.
Yeah. Go. I mean, I'm curious.
Growing up, I had a similar experience as Damon. Actually, that just like what and even when I think I mentioned this before. Like it just timed perfectly where both my parents are professional, both are in the medical field, and I saw the Cosby Show growing up, and then A Different World. So I'm like, oh, I didn't have. I mean, I understood that those stereotypes existed, but I didn't have that. I guess that all black people are bad, but basically you're black, you're black.
Yeah.
That's how I felt about it.
Yeah.
And but I did get teased because for the same reason Damon did, because I spoke proper because I'm afraid of my dad.
Yep.
so I did get a lot of that, and I had some of that. Still do to some degree, where I just don't feel. I very rarely feel comfortable in very large groups, and very large groups could be 3, 4, 5 people. So
Can I share?
Please.
By all means.
It's crazy.
Because I feel like our answers wasn't satisfying to you.
Nah, it's not even satisfying. I think y'all introduced me to a purview.
Okay.
My experience ain't that,
Right.
right? I love motherfucking Jay-Z's song, Still Nigga,
Right.
because that's my experience of being black in America is that I am the enemy of America. My experience of being black in America is that I am a tool to be used for their wealth, right? That has been my experience to be black in America. Now, let me tell you how I feel being black in America. My people taught me really young that I was a king
You dig.
and that I was to destroy all my enemies and I was to build a kingdom,
That's right.
protect my people, feed them, and be free and independent. So with that being said, I remember this period, 6th, 7th grade, Marysville, Ohio, kid named Scotty, good ass friend. We going to lunch. We used to hang out, play video games together, do the damn thing. And at lunch table. Now, mind you, when I got to Marysville, they always called me nigger and chased me home till I whipped somebody's ass. My mama told me, she said, I remember that day. They used to chase me home. I would cry. They would beat me up. And my mother pulled me aside and said, baby, you can hit a white person. I said, huh? She said, you can hit a white person. I said, I can. She's like, you ain't going to get in trouble. I went to school the next day and whooped ass.
I can't stand you. I could not stand this
devastated.
guy.
They was never going to ever put their fucking hands on me again. I didn't care if he was an adult or a child. That was me. That's 6th, 7th grade.
Wow.
And I'm sure some of them kids at that school remember that day.
You was in the red that
I'm
day.
a fast forward. Nah, yeah, I was in orange.
That ain't orange.
That's orange.
That's orange.
That was orange.
Wow.
He got up.
So that's crimson.
So I remember my friend, and just when I felt like I could settle in this environment, right? I had friends, I could trust people, I could engage. This life was about to change.
Right.
My white friend sits down at the table and says, "You still a nigga." Wow. Fuck me up. I couldn't even eat my lunch. I remember going out on recess though. And I said, "I'm still a nigga. Why you gonna call me?" And I remember face to face, he wore glasses because you're not supposed to hit a man with glasses on.
Oh, is that the rule? Is that the rule?
Hey, that was the rule.
I sure hope so.
That is not a violation.
I sure hope so, because I talk a lot of smack.
And I wanted an answer. I wanted an honest answer from my friend.
Right.
Why he would call me. What would cause him to look at me and say, "You are still a nigga."
Right.
And I asked him. I said, "Why would you say that?" And he looked at me and said, "'Cause you are." And I punched him dead in his fucking face. And that's how I feel about America. Today's times, what I've watched with the militarized, the governor and the mayor in Louisville taking and bringing the military into the West End was uncalled for. I've seen it through history, watching it on television, reading books. And I said to myself, if you move the National Guard into Louisville, this is an act of war. Historically, we've seen it. And not 48, 24 hours later, man is dead, investigation is rolling out, and we still can't be sure what the engagement was.
Right.
Black in America. As much as I'm a king, I realize I'm also a target just because of the color of my skin.
Right.
I've gotten tickets in front of my house in Jeffersonville. Uncalled for. Cop couldn't even tell me what the fucking ordinance was. That's how illiterate and ignorant his ass is.
You said in front of your house?
In front of my house. Parked in front of my house on a Sunday.
Right.
And then he wanted to debate with me. So my relationship to police is probably much like a lot of other folks. I got to know whether I got to be on the defense.
Oh, 100%.
When they pull me over.
100%.
When they're walking down the street. Are they looking at me as if I'm a target? And I think a lot, and so I love you guys' perspective, because racism, like, I know that there was a civil rights movement, but fuck, there was a KKK member in my high school. We almost duked it out.
All right.
Right? I had principals try to send me to jail for some shit I didn't even do, wasn't even in school that day. Black in America.
Right.
So I love y'all perspective. Yeah, I hang out with the homies because I didn't grow up in the hood. I grew up in white suburbs. Typically the only black Afro-Latino dude in the space. Or at least the one brave enough to be like, "Hey, I'm here." Relatively articulate, even though I cuss a lot.
So now that I got a little more understanding of the question, one thing that irks me, it troubles me, I hate it more than anything, is when you get pulled over.
Black in America.
And for that first split second that you see them blue lights in your rear view mirror.
Bruh, black in America.
And then you got to remind yourself that, I'm Tranere. I ain't doing nothing wrong.
Black in America, bruh.
I ain't did nothing wrong. I'm cool. Like, I'm good. My reputation is solid. Like,
bruh.
You dig? For the first few seconds after you see those blue lights, you get that pause, that in your stomach. And I hate that.
It's interesting. Several years ago, they were passing around this thing was going around about, if you get pulled over by the cops, you need to do this. You need to answer this way. You need to, not be aggressive. You need to just answer the question. Don't ask them why they pull you over, blah, 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 blah. And I was thinking to myself, why? Why do I have to sit here and teach my sons this code of behavior, if you will, and they may not have been doing nothing, but just simply because they're black in America, I'm aware that the perception about them is that they are violent, they are a threat, and they don't even have to say anything. They are that, period. That is how they are perceived when they walk in the room. No matter how articulate they are, no matter how educated they may be, no matter how well spoken they are, no matter how eloquent they may speak, but the minute they step into the room, the perception is that they are a threat.
Oh, that's the scariest, brother.
They are.
Oh, 100%.
That's the you do realize. So first of all, these motherfuckers ain't my king. I do speak their English, but they ain't my king, and I will never speak their king's English. That's me.
Okay.
But you do realize the person when you can speak their language and you understand their rule of order.
Facts.
When you understand how they create policy to play with each other and to keep us out.
Right.
Talk.
That's their rules of engagement. When you understand when the brother understands that, that's the scary. They ain't scared of the gangbanger.
No.
That's our soldier. See, they taught us to look at our gangbanger and say they ain't worth shit.
Right.
That's our soldier. Cause them bros, they ain't go to school, but they highly intelligent. They know the art of economics on the ground level. They know the art of they militarized. They OGs, unfortunately, they go to prison, all that other shit. But they taught us to look at them different because they want us to look at them different. They still brothers. They still black. They still black women and black men and black children.
That's right.
The war on drugs, I mean, come on, let's be honest. The United States fueled the war on drugs.
Most definitely.
It wouldn't have been here had they not imported it here.
Right.
Right? And we also know that we ain't going there. Because we talk about being black men in America.
Right.
Right? So we can't, we can do whatever we want to do. But I mean, I think ideally affording, we don't have the luxury of affording to sitting across the table and looking at each other and say, you less than, you ain't part of this. I don't care what level. If you LeBron,
that's correct.
Or you, I forget the homeboy Larry Hoover.
Yeah.
We don't get that affordability because at the end of the day, Jay-Z said it, you still nigga.
All right.
So how do we change this? Like I don't want to walk out. How do we change this? I don't want to lose a homie.
Right.
I don't want to lose my wife. I don't want to lose my kid.
Right.
I don't want none of us.
Right.
So how do we change the policies of this country so that we are independent? See, we got freedom.
We not independent. That's correct.
We ain't independent.
That's correct.
And I think majority of the country don't want us to have independence. See, we talked about that word need.
Right. Last week. That's right.
They want us to need them.
Right.
I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there, man.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I have the answers because I don't. But I would think that part of the solution is showing up in numbers. I've learned this through my friend Big Tone. He knows who he is. Shout out to him. And he's been on my back for years. I'll tell y'all a story about him later when it comes to this, what I'm about to say. But he's been on my back for years. And finally, he got my attention. Story for another day. But Miguel, I've seen it through his work, is we got to show up in numbers to the voting box. Like, period. Like, you can't sit back and talk the talk, but when it's time to do the walking, you sit your behind at home.
True story. I'm with you.
So, and I learned that from you, and I learned that from my man, Big Tone. And he knows who he is. I talk to him every night. That's my guy, my ace. So that's the first part. The other part is just continuing to speak and talk and educate and inform and direct, because for many white people, they don't know the severity. They didn't know the severity of it, right? Until they riding in the car with a homeboy who just happens to be black, and they get jammed up and they see the difference in treatment. So continuing to inform and educate, I think continuing to have the conversation. And again, I'm just guessing here. Like, I'm not even saying that this is part of it, or this is the answer, but I would think that has to be somewhere in that, showing up in numbers.
Oh yeah, bro.
To the voting box.
But here I'm gonna take you one past voting,
and then continuing to have the conversations and educate.
Let me take you one past voting, because I think we fall victim to that rhetoric too. Because I am that guy, right?
Yeah,
so
I'm
gonna do this. We get caught up in this. Oh, go vote, go vote, go vote, go vote, go vote, go vote. I get you. Did you vote? Did you vote? Cool. Did you know what you just voted for?
Real talk.
That's fact.
How many of us actually go to the voting box and have talked to the person who is running for office?
Right.
How many of us have actually asked them if equality in America is important to you? Did you ask? Because we live in Jeffersonville.
That's
so
right.
if you're listening, I'm gonna pick on Jeffersonville.
That's right.
Did you ask Matt Owen, who is our council president, if he supports Black lives before you voted for him?
Wow.
Did you ask Scott Hawkins, I think that's his name, when he ran for city council at large, did he support Black lives before you voted for him? Did you ask Dustin White, who's black, over District 1, did he support Black economy, Black lives before we voted for him? Did we ask the mayor, Mike Moore? I know I did the first time he ran, and he said he had a campaign to win, and he hadn't thought that far in advance. Point I'm making, we can't just, there is power in voting. Just like voting is like money. And so often we piss it away.
Wow.
We're going to spend some shit on a credit card with the hopes of getting a positive return.
Ooh.
We can't just get out there and blindly vote. I'm going to tell you right now, let a motherfucker call me talking about come vote for me. And my first words are, what policies are you going to change? How are you going to better the lives of us all, not just the some? See, we getting caught up in this wealth conversation because that's important too. Because you know most of a lot of these companies, definitely locally in Southern Indiana, get government contracts from the city, from county commissioners, from where are the black businesses in our community and how are they thriving? How are they being supported? See, we want to vote, but the people we voting for might sign a collective bargaining agreement that allows police to get away with murder. Yeah, we got to vote.
Teach, bro.
But let me tell you what else we got to do. It is in our power and in our right as a citizen of this country, the county and city and state you live in, to seek office. Change doesn't happen unless you're at the table.
That's right.
You can do two things in this life. You can build your own table. We know that they will destroy it or attempt to. Or you can sit at their table and negotiate a better way. We know that if black people get equality, it helps everyone.
Right.
But there are those who don't see that.
Right.
We not only have to run for office, but we have to train our children to take that position. It ain't the Oreo move, right?
Right.
It ain't the you ain't black enough move. Let me
Right.
tell you, I'm so black I ran for office twice, and I knew damn well I probably wasn't going to win. Because I know I'm not going to ask anyone else to change the system for me when I know I'm capable of changing it myself. That's building your own table.
Eliminating that need.
Absolutely. So I'm going.
No,
I like it.
I like it too. You know, how do we make that change? I think we have to figure out how to fundamentally change the mindset. That would be that I'm just going to vote along party lines because this party or that party has historically been beneficial to me as a person or as a black person. We have to show up, not just before the vote, but after the vote as well.
True story.
Show up to support our black businesses. We want to know how they're thriving. How are we supporting them so that they thrive? So even if they get not $1 in any kind of government assistance, we become the assistance. We make sure they thrive.
That's an
Because
excellent point.
we show up
That's an excellent point.
to ensure we want to have economic wealth. Then let's show up so that we can ensure that we have economic wealth. The black dollar is $1 to $1.5 trillion strong. Where are we?
All right.
Holding our officials accountable, not just because we voted them in, but to the promises that they make, which is the show up part after the vote. And if they don't do what they said, okay, we know what we do next time around.
Nah, not even next time around. See, that's the problem. We in this mode where we want to wait. Fuck waiting for stuff. Excuse the language. I know everybody out there, I done dropped the F-bomb a lot tonight. So, you know, if you want to send some money because I keep cussing and you want me to keep cussing, you know how to do it.
Because his jar is full.
My jar is full,
Ain't
right?
it
So I'm going to apologize in advance for the little kids. But, you know, Gelly mad.
No, better yet, help me understand.
Because okay, so check it out. Let's pick on Southern Indiana again because that's where we are, right? So if you're watching and you're in Southern Indiana, you know that I'm on one.
Here we are.
So we have a state rep by the name of Jim Lucas, who, since he's been in office, has made racial whatnots and epithets or whatever on his Facebook, right? So do we wait to remove him from office, right? Now, granted, his entire community is roughly predominantly Caucasian. And, that, hey, that's cool. If they want that, they want that. But here's the thing. This guy's a state rep. What does he do? He writes policy for the state. So if he thinks like that, what is he doing?
Writing policy like that.
Boom.
Yep.
Right? So we don't wait for that. Right? We got to rally against it now and demand that he's removed from office.
Right.
Right? I don't have the answer to this, but I am going to find out because I want to know, how do we have a sitting state senator or congressional person or city council person removed for being racist, for perpetuating the systemic problems of this country? Well, I do know we had him removed as a group because a lot of us screamed and hollered with the help of the Legislative Black Caucus and them coming out, and we rallied. And I think most of it had to do with the time that we're currently in. So he was removed from committees because he was on some wealth committees.
Right.
I want you to understand that. Think about that for a minute.
Let that breathe.
Right.
So we no longer can afford to wait to remove white supremacy. So
Real talk.
here's a challenge to our white friends. So when they say, hey, what can we do? You can, and I know this white privilege thing, this might be another conversation. Maybe we'll get some of our white friends on here to have this conversation, right?
Yeah.
But we right now, we're asking them to use their white privilege to fight white supremacy.
Ooh.
Use your white privilege, your tools, your resources, because it's your brother, your uncle, your cousin, your auntie, to remove white supremacy. I'm not telling you to throw it away. I'm just telling you to get the hell out of the police force. I'm telling you to get off the city council. I'm telling you to get off the school board because they're teaching our children. What are they teaching our children? The same shit they taught us. We less than, we ain't good enough. How many black school books do you see in your schools currently in Southern Indiana that your children are learning that they are kings and queens and came from one of the wealthiest continents of the world? Right? They were transported to this country so that Europe could gain wealth. Portugal, Spain, Great Britain, France. See, we ignore that part. When we talk about America, we talk about American slavery, we forget how we really got here.
Right.
And who played a major part in that positioning. And still do. Let's be honest about that. South Africa does not belong to the colonizers. But I digress.
Right.
So now we can't wait. I don't think we have to wait. I think we have to organize. We got to use organizations like the NAACP. We have to use organizations like the Indiana Democratic African American Caucus. We've got to use organizations that are in our community that exist and have existed for ages to fight this position.
Right.
But I don't think we wait. We have to get active every day. This has to be a way of life. Like you said, apathy. You're teaching me. You are. Because if we sit on the couch, if we're affected by racism every day,
Right.
and we sit on the couch and do nothing, like it's not part of our life, then it never changes.
That's correct.
It's kind of like somebody who is economically challenged. You said change your mindset. If you don't read a book, you'll always be illiterate. Right?
Woo.
Real talk.
Right? But you do have to be brave enough to ask somebody to teach you how to read.
That's right.
Money's no different.
That's correct.
So if you sit on your couch and you're economically challenged and you choose to stay that way, you choose not to learn, teach yourself, ask a question, YouTube, how to redefine your economic position,
That's right.
then you always going to be in that same place. So what I'm saying is that this has to be a way of life. For me, it's a way of life. We discuss this all the time in my home.
Right.
We're involved, right? Always asking the hard question, so much that sometimes they don't want me in the room.
Right.
But we as a people, black men, black women, our children, we have to make this a way of life. We don't all have to be militant.
Right.
But we have to make eradicating, removing, eroding systemic racism from our communities as a whole, but it has to be an everyday way of life. We can't ever go back.
That's right.
We cannot ever go. That's just my opinion.
But you also make a very good point that even though we all can't be militant, there's a place for each one of us.
That's correct.
As Tranere says, there's levels to this.
That's right.
And my level may not be militancy, but my level, I can operate on the level that I'm at, that I have, so that we all come together and play our roles, our place in this. And you're right, it does have to become a way of life, because whether we sit on the couch and do nothing, or whether we're out in the streets protesting, it is our life.
True story. That's your kid. That's somebody's kid out there. That's your neighbor. That's your neighbor's kid out there.
Right.
That's being met by military.
Right.
Yep.
By military.
Right.
Because they were saying that after 9/11, police departments bulked up under the auspices of fighting terror, and they're using all that equipment that they bulked up on against its own citizenry.
But they always have.
Real talk.
Right.
So we gotta manage that. We gotta put some laws in place that says, hey, don't bring out a tank when you got a bunch of 18-year-olds and booty shorts and tank tops screaming F the police, because that's what I saw when I was down there.
Oh, okay.
I saw a bunch of kids.
Okay.
I'm old now, so I get to say that. Well, I'm older now, right? So no disrespect to my 25 and below, my 30 and below. Sometimes I still say kid, right? I get it now when they used to call me a kid at 25. I get it. You know what I mean?
Real talk.
So what I saw was young people out there screaming at best. I ain't see nobody with no M16s, no AR-15s. There wasn't nobody down there that looked like me.
Right.
I might have, there might have been some people strapped. I don't know. I know I was. But you know what I mean? Wasn't nobody out there to do no harm.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong. There were some rogue people in the midst. The three things. We all saw the video. We know the truth. There's three things when it comes to protest. Whether you protest, looting, and rioting comes along with it, right? That's just civil unrest. Sometimes we need that to pay attention. But we also got to realize sometimes our opposition will put that in place so they can get what they want.
Woo. What policies are you going to change?
So right now, I think everyone. So for example, in Louisville right now, their CBA, their collective bargaining agreement is actually going to expire June 30th, right? So allegedly, Greg Fisher, who is the mayor of Louisville, said that it is the responsibility of the elected of their state reps to negotiate this policy. Now, every state is different,
Right.
So I asked the question in Indiana. I was told that it was the mayor and the city council's responsibility to negotiate the collective bargaining agreement in Indiana. But then I was like, well, who negotiates that for the state police? Because aren't they managed by the government? I mean, the governor and our state reps.
Right.
So there's a layer cake there. But yeah, what policies? So I think we have to start peeling back policies. Right. It's open book, right? It's open policy.
Right, for sure.
So maybe, okay, so let's start local. So if we're waving the flag and saying, hey, what do we do? Let's start local. Let's look at governance for policing in our own community. Right there, not at a national level, but right in the city level. So we know that the city of Jeff hired at least 2 of the cops who were under civil litigation.
Yep.
And had been questioned as it relates to discrimination in policing.
That's a violation.
There it is. That's a violation.
That
I like
is a
that. There it
violation.
is. Now we know how to use it.
Yep.
Right.
That's a violation. You asking for the trouble.
Right. There you go. So maybe we ought to have a policy that says if an officer is under civil litigation for rape, racial discrimination, domestic violence, that they can't be hired in our community.
Let that breathe.
Wherever they come from, they got to move somewhere else. They got to go somewhere else, but they cannot be a cop in our community. So maybe that has to be part of the policy.
That's right.
If it's not there,
We
got to demand that.
That should be across the board for every piece of government, every state, every like those.
Yes.
What you just said.
So here, let's look at another policy. I mean, we can scale them. We can look at all of them. So let's talk about budgeting and spending policy. So if I believe, and I somebody out there can correct me later in life, but I believe that in the city of Jeff, the population of African Americans is about 14 or 15%. I reserve the right to be wrong because I'm not looking at it and I just pull it out my ass.
Right.
So here's the thing. Is the city of Jeff doing business when they spend money at a minimum with 14% of their population?
Wow.
Or is 100% of those dollars being spent with the same people, the same families,
Oh.
the same layer cake?
You going deep now. Pause.
Right? Maybe we ought to have a policy in place that speaks to distribution of wealth as it relates to tax dollars when we're doing construction, when we're giving away dollar buildings, when we're signing off contracts for real estate, when we're doing eminent domain and we're moving economically challenged people out and not giving them new opportunities.
Right.
I'm just saying, when we're writing scholarships and giving scholarships away with government tax dollars, that those people who wrote the scholarship and manage it don't cheat it. and the people who are in the economically challenged areas that should be having access to it get it. So maybe we ought to have policies there. Then maybe we have to have local attorneys who are willing to sue the city and its officials for not following their governance.
Right.
So, I mean, those are starts. Those are just baby steps. School board, no different. So maybe we go to the school board, wherever your community is. And I'd love this to happen in white communities, definitely predominantly white communities, because we know that African-American history, which is American history,
Right.
is not introduced in most of our schools.
That's correct.
So why not go get a book like Puss in Boots and introduce Pickney, who was one of the world's most known graphic illustrators who's black, right? Or go find E.B. Lewis, and I can go on and introduce this to entry-level reading. There's a librarian in Louisville, and I love her, Jen Koch. You're greatest, because I know she does that in her school. White lady, beautiful person. I just said she was white, so the rest of the world knows. But I don't really care. Amazing, and she does that.
Right.
Like, she took it upon herself to find these books and said, "Man, I need to teach all my students, not just my black students.
That's correct. That's correct.
All my students."
That's a word right there.
So these are baby steps.
Yeah.
You get a corporation that calls you and says, "Hey, I want to do something." All right, I'll change the policies of your company. Put your money where your mouth is and do business with black-owned business. You know, I called our city council member, and I said, "Hey, I want to do business with the city." All right. You know what he said to me?
What?
"Are you certified?" Because there's this thing that runs around where African-American or minority-owned businesses, women-owned business can get certified to do business as a minority-owned business, because there used to be this thing that set aside that was supposed to be created, and I'm going to summarize this real quick, to make the spending an equitable playing field. It pissed me off because I'm thinking, in the world of a pandemic, white folks are doing business with no extra layer, with no extra paper, no extra need, but what is basically called upon you to create a business.
Right.
And out his mouth rang, "Are you certified?" Still nigga.
Real talk.
Hey, look, bro.
This how this shit bothers me today.
Yeah.
So I'm done. I rap. Y'all come with me. You listen.
Hey, man. Hey, listen.
Man. Wow.
You just
Nah,
put you just put so much meat and potatoes out there on the table.
Sure did.
Well, I'm done. This is Gelligel, and this is Common Conversations with the Oddfellas. If you like the podcast, if you like what you're seeing on Facebook, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, share and or like. And if you're really digging it and you want me to keep throwing money into the money jar, that tip jar, go ahead and hit the donate button. You know what? It costs to make this thing happen, and we didn't ask you to pay to listen. But I am now. Let's go.